Welcome to Joy of Business Radio, hosted by Joy of Business facilitators from around the world, with special shows from Simone Milasas, the founder and creator of Joy of Business. Are you bored or dissatisfied with your work or business? Joy of Business is an invitation to a completely new way of creating. Did you know your business and job can actually be fun and joyful? If what you are currently doing isn't working for you, listen into this show full of pragmatic tools from Access Consciousness, which change everything in business, from money to finance, staff, creativity, productivity, communication, and beyond. Joy of Business Radio, weekly on OMTimes Radio.
So welcome, everybody, to this episode of Joy of Business. I am Marnie Barranco, and I am joined today by Cortni Dion. And welcome, Cortni.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited for our conversation today. I met Cortni, I think it was about 3 years ago, and she and I were at a class together, and she was there with her son. And one of my most, favorite memories about, I think it was a 2 or 3 day class with Cortni, was her son came to class with her every day, and just the interaction and the communion that she had with him was really amazing and inspiring. And also just she's this amazing, kind presence with everyone, with her son and with everyone else. And she also has this very potency with all of the things that she is and with the way she is with regards to not mama bear and I must preserve and protect my child, but actually mama bear in the sense of I will create a space for him that's safe for him to be who he is no matter what. And I witnessed that firsthand in a actually kind of intense situation, and it was amazing. So one of my favorite things about Cortni. So what I would love, Cortni, is if you could just kind of tell us a little bit about you and your personal story of where you've come from and where you are today and what you're choosing and creating in the world today.
Sure. So yes, absolutely. A few years ago, I was in a very different space. I was separated from my then husband and kind of in transition, leaving a very toxic relationship and trying to really figure things out for me and what that next chapter was going to look like. Since then, I have used all of the tools of Access for sure to uncover and acknowledge the potency that I be and what I came here to do and create. I ignored my calling for a good 15 years. I knew a long time ago that I wanted to coach and help people grow in some capacity, but I did the corporate 9-to-5 responsible thing that was a slow, agonizing death for me because that's what I thought I should do.
Yes.
So kind of uncovering those layers and really being willing to show up for me, no matter what that looks like, has led me to coaching full-time, working with women and especially single moms to shift the paradigm of the struggling single mom and of the mom in general who has to go through life feeling guilty about all of their choices, and really unlocking the potency of other beings in this world too.
Cool. So can I ask you, going back to when you realized your relationship was toxic and you made the choice to get out of that, and you know, this is the Joy of Business podcast, and one of my favorite things that Simone Milasas says is your life is your business is your life. So there's not really a separation when you talk about creating business from the personal things in your life to your relationships, to your kids, to all of the things with your actual business creation. So what was there a kind of a turning point moment for you where you knew I'm choosing something else? And was there any particular tools or things that really assisted you with moving forward with that?
Yeah, I think a lot of times during that really toxic relationship, I put so much of myself on the back burner and cut off so many pieces of me to try to make it work. And anytime I tried to create something more for me, because that kind of internal longing and nagging and knowing of what was possible never really went away. You can, pile on layers of crap, but it doesn't really go away. And
that's very
really,
true.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of that slow, agonizing death that I was talking, it's painful to do.
Yeah.
And so really it was just getting to a place where it was almost like the light switch turned on. And I was like, this is, no matter what I do, it's not going to make this work. And I made a demand and refused to keep living that way. When I left, it wasn't, it was a process of things waking up and getting more clear on what I wanted to create, for sure. But
yeah. So would you say, like, just really an active choice to commit to you and your life no matter what, and then kind of taking the next step and the next step and the next step until you, would that be accurate?
Yes, and having, the little awareness hits kind of as I would make one choice, something else would open up, and continually asking questions and growing and healing in myself, and then working on getting clear in what it was that I really wanted to create. When I made the decision to leave, I was a stay-at-home mom, so I didn't have a lot of money resources at my disposal. It was a scary time for me and trying to figure out, and I think for a lot of women going through a divorce or something like that, trying to figure out, okay, so where do I go from here? And it feels like your whole world is crumbling. And now how I see it, it's kind of fun for me because it feels like the concrete that was packed around my being was what was falling away. I would definitely say divorce has become my superpower. And
cool.
Yeah, and leading in with,
ahead,
into business, when I first left my situation looking for a job, I was told my experience didn't matter anymore because I had left the workforce for a few years. I needed to take a drastic pay cut, which I knew was not my value and did not bring me joy. And making just different demands like, no, I'm not going to work for this. And then having a job show up, making it, I'm not going to take a full-time position that's less than this money. And having that show up. And then it was one thing after another that got me really clear on it's not a job. I want to create something entirely different.
Cool. So I love the thing that you said of making the next choice. And I get, like, with the situation that you were in, and I'm sure that a lot of people listening to this can relate, whether it's relationship or something else, of the thing in your life that you're in and it's not working and something else is possible and you'd like to have the something else that's possible. But sometimes there's this bit of this paralyzed that we do to ourselves because we go into the, well, what if this? So if I choose this, then what's going to happen over here? If I do this, am I going to have enough money? If I make this choice, is my kid going to be okay? And we easily go into the trying to figure it out or wondering what the future is going to be like. And sometimes that can be so paralyzing that we don't ever do anything different. So people can spend years of their life sitting in that place of, I know something else is possible. I'd sort of like to give it a go, but I'm not seeing what the outcome's going to be, and there's no guaranteed outcome. So I just stay with what is because the familiar sometimes is more comfortable than taking the leap. But I love what you said of making the next choice. And then you said from that, then you would see more choices open up. And it reminds me of like when you're driving in the dark and you've got your headlights on and you don't see all the way across town. You see the few hundred feet in front of you, but as you keep going, you see more and you see more and you see more. So I just would encourage anybody that's listening to Cortni's story and you have that similar familiar thing in whatever area of wondering how to move into the something you know is possible, it's just make the next choice and make the next choice. So anything you would add to that, Cortni?
For sure, one choice at a time, and at different times, especially with leaving the relationship or going into that little bit of panic that can happen, that fear, even making it 10 seconds at a time. And getting back into the present moment and my body, what can I choose right now? What can I choose in this 10 seconds that's going to create for me? It doesn't have to be, I think that was the thing that really was paralyzing for me at different times, was what that outcome would be. And I didn't need to worry about the outcome at all, because it all unfolded with so much ease when I let it.
So much ease, yes. And if you're not familiar with the tools of Access Consciousness, what Cortni's talking about, the choose every 10 seconds, there is actually a tool that is, you have 10 seconds to live the rest of your life. What do you choose? That lifetime's over. You have 10 seconds to live the rest of your life. What do you choose? And you just keep doing that. And as she said, keep choosing every 10 seconds, because we get very significant about we must make the right choice, the correct choice. We dare not make the wrong choice. And then we don't choose at all because we're paralyzed. And the 10 seconds is choice is only good for that 10 seconds. And boom, now that's over. What would I like to choose now? What would I like to choose now? What would I like to choose now? And I would say for a lot of us growing up, we were either not given choice, we were told what we could do, couldn't do, had to do, shouldn't do, or we were given very limited choice. And so we stopped actually using the muscle of choosing for ourselves, number one. Number two, many of us don't even clarify that if I was living my life, what would I choose? We don't even ask that question because we're so good at knowing what everybody else expects of us, demands of us, and then we just do it. So if you aren't choosing for you, what if you just stopped and started to ask yourself, if I were creating my life, the life that I desire, what would I choose? And number two, what if you actually started to choose towards that, even if you don't know what it's going to look like, even if you don't know what the outcome will be, with 10 seconds? What would I like to choose now? What would I like to choose now? And Cortni, I know you are telling us how your story of how using that has taken you from what your life was to a total different possibility. And I can say the same thing. And it really was committing to my life, clarifying what do I desire, and choose, and choose again.
So cool. Exactly.
No one needs to have a money problem, especially you.
Yeah, did you hear that? You have an unlimited and mostly unaccessed capacity to create money and a financial reality that works for you. Simone Milasas has a brand new book. It's called Getting Out of Debt Joyfully. And right now, when you go to gettingoutofdebtjoyfully.com, if you pre-order the book, you'll get a free online course. What if you can create money in ways no one else can? Just go to gettingoutofdebtjoyfully.com to get your copy today.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Aloha, my name is Jennifer O'Neill, and I'd like to invite you to come join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time for my show, Spirit Chat. Spirit Chat focuses on simplifying the process of using the spiritual tools and gifts you were born with in a way that fits into your everyday life. I also teach different techniques that will help you learn how to navigate the spirit realm and empower you on your own spiritual journey. So join me this Wednesday as I guide you through the spirit world.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
So I am here with Cortni Dion, and we have been talking about divorce and business and single mom and creating your life and committing to your life. We've actually covered a lot of things already. And one of the things, Cortni, you said before the break was you were talking about going through the divorce and you had been a stay-at-home mom. And so needing to obviously create some income for you and your son was something you had to look at, and then going to corporate world and looking for jobs and being told that your experience was too old and not getting the pay that you knew that you matched your value and all of that kind of thing. And then making the choice, there's something actually I would like to create and that would contribute to me and my family and the world. And then you took steps to creating that. I would say for a lot of people, they may find themselves in a similar situation, whether it's going back into the quote workforce or whether they're in a job that doesn't pay what they like, what their value is, or they're not enjoying what they're doing. And they have something that they would like to create, but they don't know where to start. So if somebody was in that situation of, I'd like to do something different, what would you say to them? How do you start?
Getting really clear on what is fun for you and what is true for you. I think so many times people, myself included, for so long, chase the money and what we think will create money for us. And I see a lot of women in business now who have created their own businesses but are struggling because they still have all of the guilt that came with working a 9-to-5, all of the distractions, all of the demands, and they're not really joyful in their business. So definitely getting clear on that, because my point of view is that what sets your soul on fire and makes your soul want to dance like nobody's watching is what's going to create money for you and be fun for you.
So, and when the getting clear on that, and I love that money follows joy is something that Simone says all the time. It's not joy follows money, because we think if we get the money, then we'll be happy. And it's actually not true. It's get happy and then awesome things show up. So from the pragmatic space of getting clear and looking at what lights you up, what you could do 24/7 and just be completely joyful in doing that. When you have a clarity on that, what were some pragmatic steps that you took, Cortni, to create that in the world?
I definitely, I was having the type of conversations that I have now with clients, with friends, family, coworkers at work, anyone in between, pretty much anyone I could talk to or was open to having a conversation. We were having the type of coaching conversations I have with clients now. It was really leaning into it and getting to a place where I chose it and decided, nope, I'm having this. I came here to do this. This is what gives me joy, and life is too short to spend it putting what is valuable to me and others on the shelf for something else. So I took a really big leap and went all in. But at the same time, it was a process 10 years in the making. A series of choices.
Yes, I love that. And I chose it. When you say that I chose it, there is such an energy to that of, it's like the energy of I'm shutting the back door. There is no more out. This is what I'm having. This is what I'm choosing. This is what I refuse to stop. And the energy of that, wow, like when we do that, and I know in my life, when I say I'm choosing something and it's not showing up, I'm not actually choosing it. I'm lying to myself, because the moment I actually go, boom, this is it, I'm having it, no excuses, back door closed, I'm going, then it shows up. And I've seen it time and time again. So I would say if you're listening to this and you think you're choosing something and it's not showing up, maybe just ask a question. Do I actually desire this? Or is this someone else's life? Do I actually desire this, or do I desire something else? And again, from that clarity, then you can begin to choose and close the back door.
I think a really great example of this is that, 5 to 15 pounds that everybody talks about wanting to lose. And saying it is great, but actually choosing it, there's a whole other set of actions that go into that, to actually choosing it. I know one of the questions that I get asked a lot as a single mom who travels and chooses freedom is, how the heck do you do it? And it's funny because I always answer, well, I chose it. As simple as it sounds, I made a choice that I wanted to have more travel and adventure in my life, and being very concrete is a solidified word for it, but being very solid in what I was choosing, not having that back door open, opportunities presented themselves in a really fun way, and almost like the silver platter was put before me. Super cheap plane tickets that I would have never imagined were possible, or a trip showing up that I wouldn't have expected otherwise, and also making shifts with where I was investing my energy. Maybe that's not going to Starbucks every day because I was choosing to travel versus having Starbucks or whatever it might be.
Yeah. So magic and miracles are created when you choose. And you brought up the thing earlier when you were talking about, looking for a job and the pay that you're being offered, but you got very clear for yourself of what your value was, and then things could show up that matched that because you were clear and you were choosing it, rather than giving up what you knew because of the messages that were coming in. So like if you had said, well, I think this is my value and this is what I'm worth, and then these numbers are coming in and you're like, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I have been out of the workforce too long. Maybe blah, blah, blah. You start to buy into their point of view. You no longer are congruent with what your desire and your ask is. But when you're clear and you know what your desire is and you're congruent with it, in that, I'm not going to take no for an answer, I'm having it, then you become the invitation for those things that you're asking for to show up, and life becomes as easy as ask and receive.
Absolutely.
And that can be your reality. So I'm wondering if we could circle to something that you've brought up as well, talking about like traveling and choosing freedom and people asking you, how do you do it? And also the piece of you have a son and you travel and you choose freedom and you choose to create your life. Do you ever have, well, I guess kind of a couple questions. Have you ever chosen to put you on the back burner in favor of your child, and what did that create? Would be a first question.
Kind of like you mentioned in the beginning, I am very much mama bear energy when it comes to my son and creating a space for him. What I find incredibly amazing, the dynamic between the two of us, my son has helped me create at so much higher of a level and potency in my life. Had the being he is not shown up, I don't know that it would be the same type of outcomes. There's something with his energy. For instance, for his 8th birthday, he did not want a birthday party. He wanted to go see Maseratis. That's what he wanted to do.
I love that.
Sorry. He wanted to go see McLaren. And every day I have questions about which supercar would be fun for me to drive as I'm setting intentions in my business, that he's constantly reminding me to ask bigger. So, yes, and I'm amazing at creating for my son. I think us as mothers, a lot of times are amazing at creating for everyone else around us. But things really shifted for me when I added me back into the equation. When I made my joy and my well-being a priority, that would be the other thing I would say is what has allowed me to create at the level that I'm creating at, is having me as part of that. You know, during my divorce, what I'm creating now wouldn't have been possible because I wasn't a part of the equation at all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really good point to bring up, because I get women are kind of ingrained with that way of thinking that it's your job to sacrifice for everyone else, and that you do, you know, fall to the bottom of the list, or you put yourself on the back burner. It's about the spouse, it's about the kids, it's about the parents, it's about, you know, the people you work with. It's about everybody other than yourself, or even the, you know, you never take the last piece of pie, you leave it for someone else. But it kind of filters down this whole way of thinking that if I care about people, I sacrifice for them. And in reality, all that creates is resentment. It creates the opposite of joy and possibility. And with what you're saying, I love that when you added you back into the equation and when you made your joy and well-being a priority. So for everybody listening to this, are you in the equation of the creation of your life, or is it all about everybody else and what they demand and require of you? And what would change for you and for everyone you care about if you made your joy and your well-being a priority? What kind of space would that open up, and what contribution would it be for everyone? Because, Cortni, you touched on that beautifully. As you do that, it contributes to your son, and then he contributes to you, and there becomes this co-creation with you that creates greater for him and greater for you. And none of that would occur if you didn't make your joy and well-being a priority, and if you didn't count you in the creation of your life.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Tune in to the Practical Intuitive, Mind, Body, Spirit for the Real World with me, host Robin Fritz, Mondays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern. I'll cover personal and business intuition, animal communication, mediumship, space clearing, past life regression, shamanic insights, energy healing, soul choice, and more, all to help you tap your own intuitive and healing skills. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Putting the fun back in business. Wake up, go to work, come home, watch TV, go to bed, repeat. Business, work, your job, hate it, bored, want to leave it? Or business, work, your job, fun, play, joy, fun. Which would you like to choose? You may not know this, but business, your job, work can actually be fun. Shake up your business routine. Check out my 3-part free video series on putting the fun back in business. Go to accessjoybusiness.com/fun and put the fun back in business.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
So I am Marnie Barranco, and I am here with Cortni Dion, and we are talking about all kinds of things business-related and life-related and kid-related. And before the break, we were talking about, Cortni said, making joy and my well-being a priority. And so we've been talking a bit about that. And the thing that strikes me, Cortni, about that is to make that a priority and to really choose for you requires a level of courage. And I don't know if you can speak to this, but I know for me, I lived a lot of my life not including me. And when I started to get clear on what I would like to choose and I started to choose it, there were a lot of people in my world that were close to me in one way or another who really didn't like it. And I didn't realize until I actively started choosing for me how many people in my world had very strong points of view about who I should be, how I should be there for them, you know, what they were comfortable with a particular role for me to fulfill. And it wasn't that I started choosing against them and saying, I'm, you know, go away and just, you know, get out. You don't count anymore. It was not that at all. It was not a choosing against anyone, but it was a choosing for myself. And it created no small reaction in some of the people close to me. So I'm wondering for you, did you have a similar experience the more you've kind of strengthened the muscle of choosing for you and creating for you? How has that affected relationships in your world?
I think not a lot of my close personal relationships. I mean, I've definitely seen some of that. I would almost explain it as a volatility reaction, like a volatile reaction to choosing for me. And most of the time, you know, when I'm like, okay, so this is what I'm choosing, or someone who has an expectation of what they want from me, and that's not my choice, that they go into, you know, some judgment around it, or they get offended that I'm not putting what I would choose on the back burner to please them.
Yes.
And it's one of the most freeing things. It's fun for me. Now, I'm a little bit of a rebel.
No.
Just a little bit.
I didn't know that.
So but you know, I spent a long time as a people pleaser. A really long time. Which is such a funny dynamic to, you know, at my core be such a rebel, but to be, you know, putting that on the back burner to please everyone. So it's kind of fun for me now. It's almost like a little bit of a poking of the bear, you know, when I choose for me, and it's not in a malicious way. It's a very peaceful choice for me.
Yes.
But I kind of just sit back like, oh, let's watch what this reaction is going to be. Because I can almost perceive it, you know. You can feel when someone has an expectation of you. Yes. It's interesting. Yeah.
It is, and to find the humor in it, and I love that. It's been one of the most freeing things for me too, and it's funny because a lot of what's out there, like in the self-help world and personal development, is this fight energy of to stop pleasing other people. You have to fight for you, and you have to fight for your point of view, and we call it being empowered, and we call it taking charge of our life, but it has this energy of fight, and you cannot engage in a fight and actually have you. It just, like, you just get locked up into all of this you have to continue the fight. You have to perpetuate the fight. So it's, as I mentioned earlier, it's not about a choosing against anyone. It's about a choosing for yourself. And it's not a fight against anyone. It really is more a simple willingness to choose what I'm going to choose. And it's okay with me if it makes you uncomfortable. It's okay with me if you don't like it. I don't have to fix to change that for you, nor do I have to engage with a fight for you, because it's not about fighting against you. It's about fighting for me. It's not about choosing against you. It's about choosing for me. And once, and this is still, I do this like 95% more of the time than I used to ever. And there's still an occasional little, hook that someone will draw me back into. But as I choose it more and more, it's really what you said. I can just kind of sit back and I find the humor in the lie that if someone doesn't do what I want them to do, somehow it affects me. Because the truth is, we are all empowered to create our life, and it's got jack to do with anyone else. But when someone doesn't know that, then they really have to get you to do what they think you should do. So freedom, freedom, freedom. When you can choose for you, you're willing to let them be uncomfortable, and you're willing to find the humor in the insanity of people trying to control you, because it's really freaking fun. So to think that you could be controlled, that's hilarious in itself. Yes. So
cute.
One other thing, yeah, so cute. So speaking of that, though, for a lot of people, they may have found freedom from being controlled by friends, being controlled by parents, being controlled by coworkers. But sometimes for some of us as parents, the kid thing is tricky. And especially when you start choosing for you, there's sometimes, for me, I know, there have been this like guilt that wants to pop up of, geez, been gone 2 weeks every month for the last 6 months. I must be a terrible mom. And I have tools that I've learned over the years where I don't buy into that for very long, if at all. And it took me a minute to get there. That was really an area that I struggled with, not feeling guilty as I was choosing for myself. So wondering if that's been your experience, or if not so much, how do you create your life without having the guilt or the questioning of, you're being a good enough mom or spending enough time with your kids or that sort of thing?
Yeah, it does pop up here and there. My son is a being, like for us, a lot of it has been a conversation in what we can create in different scenarios where something was really not working for him. I think that's where I had the most guilt. When I was working a 9-to-5 and doing it as a single mom and rushing around with my head ready to spin off because I was stressed about the commute, I was stressed about my job, trying to show up for him when he was sick and needed to stay home, but I knew I had all these demands at work. That's when I really saw the guilt the most for me. When I started to have a conversation and getting real with myself too, about what would create the most for us, a lot of that went away. Now, that's not to say my son is a master manipulator, as I think most kids are. And, he will try to put on the waterworks and, put me into guilt sometimes about, spending time with family and me going to do something that I need to do for me. But it's because, like, now it's almost been a joke. Like, I see what you're doing, and you're fine. You're getting a vacation. Kind of a thing. So it's really been this little dance between us and me observing in that. But things dramatically shift, and that's not to say that, none of it will come up in the future. I have made it work with him. Instead of it being, I could live out my dreams if not for my kid. If not for my kid, I could live my dreams. And I don't know if that's the thing that shifted it so much, but it's an entirely new world. And it really is a co-creation between the two of us. It's really minor stuff when that guilt starts to creep in, and it's mostly him trying to mess with me.
No, totally. And thank you for that so much. You know, you said he's a master manipulator. And yes, most kids, if I'm going to even say all, I know that's a bold statement, but all of them are. And if we buy into the idea that they're just sweet and innocent and they're, you know, the victims at the expense of the choices of the people around them, no, like call in BS on that one. And acknowledging, and it's not that it's a bad thing. Manipulation is not a bad thing, but looking, okay, they have amazing skills in manipulation is really a huge thing in not buying into the lie. And I can say, you know, similar to you, what I find is when we include our kids, as you said, you have conversations, you include him in things. And oftentimes I think parents think they go into that I have to choose against my kid if I'm going to choose for me. And that is a lie. When you're choosing for you, you're choosing for everyone. When you're choosing for you, it benefits everyone. So getting that like established first goes so far. And then it is including them. I mean, I have conversations with my kids of like, hey, I'm choosing this. And so I'm going to be gone from here to here. What would it take for this to be fun for you? What do you require? And sometimes it's as simple as, so you're going to be out for can we have pizza? Can you like order us a pizza? Sure, I can order you pizza. And they're happy. Sometimes it's like, I'm gone for 2 weeks. What do you require? Well, can so-and-so stay with us and can I buy this video game? Yep, sure, no problem. And it is, you know, this co-creation of what works for you, what works for me. And I have to admit, I had a lapse for a moment. I've been looking at my 2020 schedule and I've put a lot of things on the books of worldwide tour talking about conscious parents, conscious kids. And I was feeling guilty, not because my kid was putting it on me, but I'm like, shit, man, I'm gone for a long time. I shouldn't, whatever. And I started to say to my 11-year-old today, look, I started giving up me. Hey, if this is too much, and there's nothing wrong with asking that question, but I wasn't coming from a genuine, hey, let's look at this. I was coming from a conclusion that I was being a bad mom to be choosing this. And I started to go down that road. And he looked at me and he said, please don't ever stop choosing for you. Do you know how awful that would be? And I just went, whoa, okay.
They're amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. But what a gift. I mean, I didn't cry then, but he went to school and I just had these tears of gratitude for he knows for himself, not because anyone's told him, that me choosing for me creates for him. And he now knows that when he chooses for him, it's going to create for everyone else too. And I am like beyond grateful for that. And I get that it all starts with the things you and I have been talking about including them and not allowing ourselves to be manipulated. And what questions can we ask to co-create together? And how can this be fun?
What do you hate about business? And do you want to change it? If you don't want to change anything about your job or business, stop listening. You're all good. If you'd like to have money just for the fun of it and stop the negative self-talk, check out Joy of Business. This is about knowing what you know about business and creating more than you can imagine. Access Joy of Business 101 classes offered around the world. Go to accessjoybusiness.com/101.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living, a chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me, and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
So welcome back. I'm here with Cortni Dion, and we have been talking, well, first I should say single mom, rock star mama, single mom, rock star, that's what I meant to say, entrepreneur, sassy, empowering coach. I'm loving our conversation. I'm grateful for you being here today. So I'm wondering, we've covered on a lot of things. Are there any things we've talked about so far that you want to say more about in particular?
Definitely, I think for a lot of moms, trying to step into or making the shift to start choosing for them, there's a lot that comes up, not just around guilt, but time, money, and all of those bazillion reasons why you can't have it that come up. And I would definitely say choose it. Just choose it to start. Make the demand of yourself that you're going to find a way that you're having it. When I first started wanting to make shifts, all the money wasn't there. When I actually left to create my business, I had just lost child support. I didn't have a ton of money saved and put away, and I was like, I'm still having it, and the money has shown up. And leaning into, what would be fun for me? What would be a fun way for me to create money? I've done things like flipping furniture because I loved it, and it gave me some joy, when I needed to come up with some money in the past. And there's so many opportunities and possibilities that are out there when you actually say, all of that is a lie. None of the reasons that are showing up, they're fear. They're not real, and that you choose what you want to create for you.
Yes, I love that, and I get that even opening up to the idea that there's so many possibilities for a lot of people, that's a really, really new thought, because we really get locked into, the 9-to-5 world, or it's either this or that, and we get locked into limited options and what we've decided we can't have. And it's what you said, Cortni, when you acknowledge that's actually a lie, and then you start to recognize there are possibilities. And one of my favorite tools in Access is the simple question of what else is possible. What else is possible here? What else is possible that I've never considered? And if I hadn't decided that there were no choices, if I hadn't decided it was this or this, if I hadn't concluded that I was stuck here, what would I know was possible? And then the other thing you said is then leaning into it. And I love the languaging of that, because there is this thing of sometimes even when we start to grasp the possibilities, and you touched on this earlier, there's still an action. There's a taking a step. There's something required to move us towards it. So if we keep all of those possibilities outside of us as, maybe that's possible, but it's out here. Maybe that's possible, but for someone else, rather than, infinite possibilities, and then lean. To me, that's I'm choosing to put my energy into it rather than keeping it at a distance. And that's when things can start to shift and change. And I know for me, faster than you could imagine. And I get that we also lock ourselves into that linear thing of how long something takes, how long it takes to build your business, how long it takes to build your bank account. But if you don't conclude that and you ask questions, and I'm going to use Cortni's word, lean into the possibilities, then things can just really show up with ease and faster than you can imagine.
For sure.
So, yeah. And I also would love to touch back on what you said of what is fun and you said what is fun. And I would say yes, and what is easy for you. Because it's really interesting to me that over the years I've found that the things that are super easy for me, I have zero value for, even though the things that are easy for me and fun for me often bring me lots of money when I choose to do them. I devalue them because somewhere I bought the stupid point of view that if it's not hard work, it's not worth money. So what if you could look at what is easy for you that you don't have value for because it's so easy and you think everyone else can do it, but they actually can't? What is like part of just so much fun and you just flow with it easy that could create revenue streams for you? It's a fun question to play with. So I would ask another question as we're kind of coming closer to the end here, but, you know, through the whole journey, process, whatever words you like to use, of making changes in your life and actually actively creating your life rather than being the victim to what everybody else around you is choosing and doing. In that process, in that choosing and leaning into possibilities and choosing some more, sometimes we hit a wall or we hit a stuck place or things seem to be moving and flowing, and then all of a sudden there's like a stop. What tools, Cortni, when that comes up in your world, what tools do you like to use to move you beyond that?
I think one of the things that can show up, and it's probably not just me, it's probably a lot of moms in business, is that feeling of overwhelm and all of the demands that seem to be on you, trying to get everything done that you need to do and be everything for everyone. And a tool that you, Marnie, actually taught me was to ask what was required of me for the day. What's required of me today? And that has been incredibly freeing for me. Also, to look at things and see where my energy is not required, the flip side of that. You know, is grocery shopping something that or picking up the kiddos. I think a lot of times, for me especially, I doubt that I'm the only one who has this complex once in a while, that I can do it all myself and not asking for help. It's been amazing to see who can show up and who shows up for me when I am open to that possibility and get out of my own way and, you know, kind of take off that badge of honor that I am super mom. Mm-hmm. That really helps me be a super mom.
I love that a lot.
Yeah.
Because when it's something we're trying to be because we're supposed to, and all the have-tos and the shoulds and the do's and the image we're supposed to project, we're not actually present with ourselves or our kids. And when you let all of that go, then you get to show up. You get to be present with you, your life, your kids, your creations. And you do. You kind of access that superpower that's there when you're not pretending to be it, and just actually from ease allow yourself to be it. Such a different space.
Yeah, and then I think the third thing would definitely be releasing the expectation of how something is going to show up, because it never shows up the way that we're expecting it to anyway, and having a little bit more ease around that, flowing with it.
Yeah. And when you said in what's required of me today question, the getting what's not required, that's really huge, because it's amazing and kind of along the lines of expectations. The expectations we put on ourselves of all the things we've decided we must accomplish and do in a day. And that in itself is such an energy drain, just the energy of all those expectations that doesn't give you, if you took that and you let go of the expectations and you put that energy into the actual choosing and creating, how much more would you, quote, get done, how much faster, and how much more fun and ease would it be in that creation? Way, way different space. So in wrapping up, if there was one or two things, and you've said there have been just some really amazing things throughout this whole conversation, and thank you again for it. If there were a few, 1, 2, 3 things that you would say to somebody who perhaps is either they're really stuck in a life they don't desire and would like to choose something else, or perhaps they've started to choose something else but would like to, kind of a little boost to keep going and keep choosing, what things would you say to them?
Start with what brings you joy and is fun for you, and choose from there. Adding more joy into your life and creating more space for what really brings you joy will exponentially change things. And then, really choosing it and going for it and letting things evolve. There's, like you said, it's a totally different energy when this is what is expected of me. This is how I have to show up. This is how you do business. This is how you do being a mom. And being willing to find out what's really true for you and what works for you. And then just choose it one choice at a time and keep going.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And so joy, just to kind of summarize what Cortni's saying, joy. And one thing I would add, if joy's not been your reality for a really long time, just kind of ask for the energy of joy wherever it is in the world to ping you so you can see it, you can say hi to it, and you can invite it into your world. And if you were choosing for you today, what would you choose?